When it comes to content marketing, there's near universal agreement on the what-to-do actions organizations must take. Document your deepest understanding of your audiences and buyers. Use buyer persona methodologies. Create compelling content that's relevant to your target audiences and useful to help them address the issues and business problems they care about. And take a storytelling approach. Create content in multiple forms and formats, short and medium and long-form text, SlideShare type graphics and infographics, video, apps, and tools. Leverage the primary information channels your audiences prefer. Track and measure the results. Use this feedback to improve and constantly run A/B checks on content and marketing tactics. How to do this advice tends to focus on specific tactics and techniques. How-tos for websites, lead gen programs, marketing automation initiatives, blogging, white paper, and video production techniques are common examples. This advice is often packaged to address primary marketing tactics such as campaigns, events, and specific content projects. As the name content marketing suggests, the primary focus of published guidance is for marketing activities. But what about other customer engaging groups across the organization? Comparatively little thinking and what-to-do recommendations focus on how to support the content requirements of sales, inside, direct, major account, and channel sales. And what about customer service and HR? Prescriptive recommendations for these groups is targeted not to marketers, but people in those specific functions, and it's published on channels and with keywords appropriate for members of those groups. Of course, this reflects, if not perpetuates, the silo tendency for content planning and execution in most organizations. But marketing is uniquely positioned and resourced to perform this work. The importance of broader marketing involvement is even more important through the lens of a customer-centered philosophy. This is what the omni-channel experience movement is all about. Consider the perennial challenges B2B marketers report. You've seen this chart 100 times. And now, review the list of new content criteria driven by the new realities of online empowered buyers as well as the nature of digital content and delivery channels. When we analyze the biggest constraints companies face meeting new digital content requirements, we see two core causes that aren't being addressed. The first is an ineffective or no sales and marketing content strategy. The practice of content strategy evolved from content strategy for websites. Today it's applied to specific content projects, but it's still at the project level, seldom at the functional level, and virtually non-existent at the top business level. The second cause is companies are not doing a good job executing marketing and sales content strategy. Content challenges and new content criteria create problems that are fundamentally operational in nature. Poor execution is due in part to outdated content operations practices. Most marketing executives have never managed, let alone designed, a professional, high-scale content operational. Traditional content practices are known by the adage, you can have it good, fast, or cheap. Pick any two. You hear this in the persistent quality versus quantity debate around content. If you really have a content strategy, you would not have this debate. Your strategy would define what you have to do, period. Content quality and having enough content to meet primary use case requirements are table stakes for being in this business. During our 20-year custom content business, we concluded the traditional, project-oriented, creative craftsman approach to content is outdated. It cannot meet the new requirements of digitally empowered audiences and buyers, their online channel and format preferences, or the needs of the many content-dependent constituents across the enterprise. So the critical gap we see between the generally agreed upon what-to-do advice and the technique-level prescriptions is an inability to effectively operationalize a content strategy that goes beyond content projects, websites, and marketing. Organizations need a content strategy that is holistic and unified across all customer-facing functions. Organizations must execute that strategy with a professionally managed content operation. This is characterized in part by a continuous workflow process rather than the traditional campaign and event-triggered content project orientation. Here's a simple example of this. The traditional content model is a just-in-time approach, but too often there isn't enough time to create content that's required. The new approach is to pre-produce content so it's ready the instant it's needed. Process changes must introduce repeatable and scalable processes that bring efficiencies to content operations and optimize all the new criteria for content. The objective of these two changes is to get the best performance out of content, more outputs from the creation process, and higher returns on content investments.